Welcome back, gentlemen and 1% viewership ladies, my wife and my mom. On my Instagram stories a few days ago, actually last week, probably a week ago now, I don't know. I put out a question post saying, what does everybody think about doing some shorter videos on the channel, adding a second video weekly when it's manageable. If I'm in the middle of a trip or something like that, probably won't happen, but I do a lot of just little things around the shop with the cars that I can't really work into like my bigger produced videos. It's not really cohesive with the look or what I'm going for. So I figured when I'm doing smaller stuff, I just grab the GoPro, turn it on, show you guys kind of what's going on behind the scenes. I talk about gear, talk about like random fixes I gotta do. Like today, we are gonna be working on the GC8. Needs a fuel pump and I'll go through that in a minute. So I'm gonna try out these videos for a few weeks, see how they go, see if I like burn myself completely out doing it, but this is something that I'm gonna be shooting and editing in like less than a day. Just because it's on the GoPro, it's really easy footage to run through and honestly, I can rip through it pretty quick. I'm already rambling on, so let's get to it. For this inaugural episode of, I don't know what to call this, but it's our second video of the week. I'm gonna be putting a fuel pump in the GC8 and I'm gonna tell you why right now. All right, so on my last video, you saw me rebuild the entire front end of the GC8. And I went through and redid a bunch of wiring. I redid this entire front core support and crash bar and bumper beam and everything and put everything back together, got the car running. I'm pretty proud to say that everything lined up really well on this car. And it was running and it was driving. I had no problems except for on hard pulls, sometimes very intermittent, third and fourth, sometimes second, the car would fall on its face and like stop. And it ended up being a lean condition, which is not good. The reason for that, I think, is because I think my fuel pump is going out. Let me show you. So this car is a 2004 STI setup, basically. It's an IAG closed deck case or block. It's got EJ257 heads that have been rebuilt, new buckets. It's got a new timing belt, new head gaskets. It's got ARP 625 head studs in it, which were all installed by Boost Barn for my buddy Danny at Salvage Guys when he had this motor out of a wrecked 2004 STI that somebody had built with a Garrett GTX 3076, big ass turbo, which I sold off the setup and replaced with a small WRX turbo. At full throttle, this car makes 18 pounds of boost. The turbo is completely maxed out, but we are nowhere near the overhead of the engine because this thing is built to take like 500 to 550 horsepower. On the dyno for Boost Barn, when Aaron initially tuned it, it had 240 at the wheels. Being that this is a probably 2,500 pound car, somewhere in that neighborhood, that's a lot of horsepower. This thing is a rocket ship. I think it probably dynos it a little bit more. I don't know. There's always discrepancy in dynos and stuff like that, but it also has had different calibrations and stuff since then, so it's probably actually making a little bit more when the fuel pump decides it wants to work. I discovered the fuel pump issue because of that hard stumble we were having in third and fourth. I had chalked it up to being part of the issue I had on the Perseverance trip when my intake air temp sensor wire came loose out of where it's wired into the old MAF sensor. The car was just running like garbage and I thought maybe that was causing the issue. I also then found out at the end of the aftermath, my last episode, that my O2 sensor was bad, so I thought, okay, maybe that's doing it. Replace the O2 sensor, the car was actually running a lot better, but that wasn't the issue. I took it for a tune touch-up, and it was showing that the car was jumping lean intermittently. You know, we did a pull, it went like 14-to-1 under throttle. We got out of it, I wasn't full throttle or anything, the motor didn't get hurt, luckily. Pussyfooted it the entire time. And then we did another pull and it was completely fine. In my head, I was thinking the fuel pump's starting to go out or something's going on with the ground. So the way that I went about confirming we had low fuel pressure is this. Aaron and Seb sent me home with a fuel pressure sensor that I hooked into my Airmotive fuel regulator, pressure regulator right here. It just taps in, it's like an AN-8, and it's got 3 wires, it's got power, ground, and signal. So you need 5 volts, and I was originally gonna wire it to the old MAF sensor, but that is already tapped for our intake air temp sensor, which is under the intercooler. So I found the old TGV plug and cut it off. And I used the shitty crimps because I'm out of the good ones, just to get it going. Power, ground, signal. So what I did to get that to read in the ECU, I know very, very little about tuning or anything like that, but this was something that I kind of learned on the fly, which is really cool. Basically, here's our new fuel pressure gauge, which I added in here with the detailed guidance of Aaron and Seb at Boost Barn. I was able to set this up. So I installed that fuel pressure sensor. I ran it into the TGV plug. I referred to the pinouts on the Link ECU itself through the manual, and I went and found, let me see if I can pull it up here. So I found that the TGV plug was analog voltage 4, and then I assigned it to fuel pressure and then added the fuel pressure to the gauge. I've opened up world possibilities because you do have open circuits for 12 volts, stuff like that. You can wire up fans to it if you want to. You can wire up anything and you can just run it through the Link, which is really cool. When I started up yesterday, it was running at less than 30 PSI at idle, which is not good. So that tells me that the fuel pump is going out, and Aaron told me to unhook the vacuum reference line while it was running, and he said if it doesn't change, you definitely have to change your fuel pump. So I did that. It stayed under 30 PSI, nothing changed, which means yes, fuel pump is definitely dying. So, being that I do not want to nuke my engine by leaning it out, I'm gonna replace the fuel pump today. Yeah. Behind the trunk panel. It's a very crusty box with a Deechworks DW300. I also suspect maybe there could be something with the regulator. We'll see after we put the pump in. So I'm going to take the back seat out of this thing and then lift the plate out. We're gonna pull the basket and we're gonna pull the battery off because I don't want to blow up. And we're gonna replace the pump. It's cold outside. All right, so this is the plate that covers where your hanger and your pump sit, which I'm just gonna clean around so that I don't dump any grit into the open fuel tank. All this dust is from Arkansas. I know because I cleaned all the Utah and Oregon dust out before I went there. So as you can see, there's our plate that holds the fuel hanger in. Before I pull that plate off and the hanger out, I'm gonna get this fan evacuating air so I don't breathe in all the gas fumes today. And your fingers don't work. There we go. Shit out of the way, and you kind of got to do some finagling here because your filler neck is right there. Make sure you don't drop your gasket into your tank. Oh, I don't remember the able to dangle this out. It's all kind of awkward to get at, but that's it. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna undo that, undo the sock, swap in the new pump, fire it up. Let me see here. Looks like the wiring's all right. Everything seems to be crimped, so we just gotta undo the connector, pull the fuel pump itself, pull the sock, put the new one on. Okay, the GoPro might not focus, but to get your sock on, there's this little pin on the bottom and that little crimp ring. You have to get it on there so you can kind of force it on. I use a 5mm socket and just kind of press it and then take a mallet. You can take your new rubber retainer, slip it over so it all sets in there. Basically you take your new pump, slide it up in to the hose. Should be a lot easier than taking it out. And it takes a little bit of forcing to get in there, but you're good to go once it's in. Retighten your clamp. The new D-Works pump in there, got the connector on, and a new sock. I don't know why it was so hard the first time I did it. I remember having a struggle for some reason, but this stuff's all installed. We're good to go, so I'm gonna throw it back in the car. So, new pump is in, the hanger is back in. So I'm gonna hook up the laptop and turn the car on, make sure the pump comes on, and then see what we get for pressure at idle, and then hopefully confirm that the old fuel pump was bad if I'm still seeing under 30 PSI or I'm not seeing 43 PSI. And I'll look at other things, maybe regulator, maybe injectors are doing something, maybe there's a rupture somewhere else. Maybe the fact that I don't have an EVAP canister or anything like that is causing problems. I don't know. Stuff to look into. I feel a little loopy. Gas fumes get to you. Anyway, I'm gonna fire it up. Let's see what happens. See how we're looking. Well, that's not great. Showing 31 PSI, which is better, but not amazing. So I'm wondering if I just need to open up the fuel pressure regulator a little bit. I shouldn't be doing that. So, just talked to the guys at Boost Barn again, and they said there's been no real change to bump up your base pressure, so just on the regulator, which I didn't actually know you have to do without the vacuum reference on. But anyway, making headway, figure out the problem. I want to make it healthy, so keep tinkering. Back together, drive it and see how it acts. Did a couple quick pulls, just like really not full throttle, but get into it, and it wasn't acting the same as it did before. It wasn't having that hard stumble and cut and like backfire, so I don't think it's leaning out anymore, but I don't think the fuel pressure is still quite where it needs to be. I'm getting like, not erratic readings, but it's, you know, showing like, right now we're at 36, 34, just cruising. It does reference with boost, it seems to come up. We'll hit like a few pounds of boost and it comes up. I think that sensor might just read, I don't know, maybe because of the wiring, it just doesn't read quite 100% accurate, I don't know. I was able to do a couple pulls, and then I did a really, really hard pull second through to fifth, and I got a error for injector duty cycle above high value twice, fuel calculation clamped at its minimum value. So I don't know what that means, but I did log it, and I'm gonna send it off guys and see what they say. So I just got an email back from Aaron. The fuel pressure is still dropping. The next thing I'm looking at is that air motive fuel pressure regulator. We're gonna pull that thing apart and see what we can see. I got this thing all apart, and the only thing that I am finding suspect is there was metal inside of it on the bottom plate of the spring here and on that thing. So I don't know what would cause that other than, I don't know, a fuel pump ejecting its guts. It's shiny, so it's definitely not sediment, that's metal. Here, the orifice through the bottom looks fine. I can see plenty of daylight through the AN fitting, no issues there. The fitting, the vacuum fitting is not protruding into the bore, and so it's not hitting the spring. Yeah, I don't know. Just had a bit of a discovery here, actually. Looking a little closer, you might be able to see it. You see how the outside of that orifice there is shiny, that side is not. That's a witness mark. I think that means that the bottom of the diaphragm, this little ball, it acts as a valve. You know, this diaphragm moves under vacuum and stuff like that, allows more fuel in and out. I think that is what caused the problem. The ball itself, I can't show you because the focus is so bad, but I can see a witness mark on the ball. So I think that is causing an issue with fuel pressure dropping. It probably is backfeeding or something like that, I would say, I think, because that is the feed, what is that? Is that in or out? That is gonna be, yeah, so that is the line in. So that would mean that it's losing pressure before it's going back out to the fuel rail. Yeah, Aaron just got back to me, confirmed that's gonna be the problem with the pressure fluctuation. So tomorrow morning, gonna grab a regulator, throw it in the car, get it adjusted, get everything dialed, do a pull, send a log, or go down there, get a street tune. Hopefully this thing will be dialed. I'm gonna leave this here. See you guys right back here tomorrow morning. So this is the new fuel pressure regulator. Aaron threw the sensor in there for me with some gasket maker, aviation form a gasket, I mean. And they tested this one on a car. It was functioning properly. It's a revised version of it, I think, a little bit newer. So basically, my vacuum fitting is gonna stay on that side because I don't feel like moving the entire thing and moving the fittings. So I'm just gonna bolt that back in place, get the car hooked up to the laptop, we'll adjust the setting, make sure it's at 43, go for a drive, do some data logging, see how it does. There we go, I'm gonna throw that right there. All right, new fuel pressure regulator is in, adjust the base pressure, hopefully go for a drive. All right, so didn't even have to touch the regulator. With vacuum on, we're like right at 34, 35. And when you pull vacuum off, without any reference, 43. So right on the money where this should be idling. We're rolling. Got a little stumble every time you give it a secondary throttle input. So hopefully that's not a lean condition. A little input there. Felt all right. A little bit later in the day, and I got a tune revision back from Aaron. He said that it looks like the tune's a little off, so he made me a map, get it loaded in the car. All right, let's see how we do. Start her up. Yeah, I got some tweaking to do, and then we're gonna go for a drive. Looked all right. There we go. I'm getting a weird squeaky clunk from underneath. That felt pretty good. Well, the GC is on the other side of the shop. Felony is over here because I've been TIG welding on it and I ran out of gas as usual. And that's gonna do it for the first midweek episode here on the channel. I'm gonna try and put out 2 videos a week for you guys for the next little while, see how it goes. See how I like it, see how you like it. This one, I mean, it's 20 minutes long-ish, but it was really easy to put together. I had a lot of fun doing it just with the GoPro in the shop here, messing with the GC8, trying to get it back up to snuff. Seems like the fuel pressure issue is solved. Just gotta get it fine-tuned. I'm heading down to Boost Barn actually tomorrow, which I might drop a reel or something. Look out for that, maybe a short on it. I don't know, we'll see. I'll update you guys at some point, but gonna get it completely dialed and then start driving it and start enjoying it again. Gonna be jumping back on Felony once I get back from that, and you'll see that on Sunday. And then I'll catch you right here next week, next Wednesday, where we're doing more fun stuff. All right, as always guys, please be kind, drive hard, and at some point I will see you on the road. Have a good one.